Reading an article by a journalist this morning who described the Labour Party as left to centre. He couldn't get any more left wing with Keir Starmer in charge. This is a man who admires communism, who went to Czechoslovakia and admired the way the people didn't have any say in the future and the government handled everything. Well, I don't want you to handle my life, thanks. I've done all right with my life, as millions of others have. And this is his first 100 days in power. What you've got to take away from this, where this is good news, is that bad. It's like working for us, because not even the journalists have come out with anything positive that he's done in 100 days, from taking the pensioners' winter fuel allowance to claiming that, oh, we didn't know there was a big black hole of finances. But the black hole's so big he still managed to give 11 billion to Africa whilst robbing pensioners. They also robbed the descendants with the cap being lifted on the social care allowance. Now we know who gets Nana's house. The care homes does. Because they could only get up to £85,000 before that, now they can take the whole amount. So if someone's in care a long time, it's a whacking bill. These places are £1,200 to £1,600 a week, depending on how far gone the patient is. But add to that, John McAn, who was Blair's secretary, has said that basically he's lost his grip. He said that Starmer's lost his grip. Mandelson has said he's gone to the election completely unprepared for power. Commentators on the world stage are saying when he's been to these summits that they'd look at someone completely inexperienced. One European MP, I'm going to say the sex then, shan't say the name, said you have a phrase that says, cat in headlights, this is what he looks like. He's pretending to be coping and capable, but he's out of his depth. Now, you've got to remember, he's a clever man. He's had a good education. He was the Crown Prosecution head. So this isn't a thicko. I'm not suggesting that for 1 minute. But you can be good at something, especially if it's something that requires exams and sitting down to do it. But when you're out in the hot seat, dealing with things, and there'll be thousands of things we don't get to see, day after day, you've got to be switched on. You've got to be on your game, and he's not. Boris wasn't on his game, he's lazy. Boris is lazy. Starmer isn't lazy, but he's socialist. Finishes work at 6 o'clock on a Friday. Who runs the country Saturday and Sunday? You couldn't make it up, could you? But the good news is Unite, the union, have come out against him. Now, when the Labour government, you've got to remember, these people have waited nearly 15 years to get a grip of power again. They've waited all that time, and now the guy who's in is on super drive for communism, and he's doing it too quickly. And even Tony Blair isn't pleased about it. So if you're losing support on your own side, Stephen Fry's come out and said he can't believe how bad it's got so quickly. Oh, really? I thought you were educated. And Carol Vorderman allegedly has been sacked or walked away from LBC after months and years of blaming the Tories for everything, instead of blaming Westminster, which is where the blame lies, because whatever the Tories put in, the other politicians could have stood up against it, but they didn't. They allowed it to go on, especially this last 3 years. So the good news is that this party is so bad at what they do, it actually works to our benefit, because people won't put up with it forever. So unfortunately, they underestimate the power of the public. The public is still all-powerful, because it's why they have to change things to fit in with the consensus. Because once you're losing support from places like the unions, who are in control of a lot of people, very influential, just like the corporations are very influential for the Tory party, you're going down the tubes big style. Now, that's not going to change anything. We've still got ULEZ zones, we've still got fuel and energy prices way too high. We are getting stuffed on our energy prices, good and proper. And as I've said before, I cannot find any green energy companies that do not make their money from subsidies. Subsidies from the government is our taxes. The government don't have any money, the government don't make anything, they get it from us. So how do we get through it? We get through it by never underestimating the power of verbal recommendation. Because as you know, when you go for a tradesman or anything, if you want to know which care home to put a relative in, you ask your friends and family, you ask people in the know. So it's just the same with sharing knowledge. So I've got a message from a lady who follows this channel, and she said she was at her daughter-in-law's. They get on okay, but they don't see eye to eye on politics. So instead of going full tonto with everything she's ever learnt in the universe since she started following me, she went in slowly and said, can you believe how much we're paying for energy? That's how she started off. Daughter-in-law agreed, yeah, it's way too much, blah, blah, blah. And did you understand? And she explained a few myths about green energy. And the girl was interested because she's got solar panels on her house. She's obviously, recycling and whatever. She started listening to her mother-in-law, and then as her mother-in-law explained a bit more and a little bit more, she then opened up and said, well, I voted for Labour, but I wished I hadn't. So all of a sudden, someone who you've got no compatibility with on politics, all of a sudden, there you are. And gratefully, this lady who follows me didn't open up and say, I told you so, or anything like that. She said, it's a pity you've been let down so much, because I know you only wanted to vote for them for the right reasons. That's a blinding comment, because that's the truth, isn't it? People only vote for what they vote for. They don't vote to be awkward to us because we want something else. They vote for because they believe these new people, this new new government, will deliver what they're looking for, which is, a more holistic approach to politics. When really we know it's just hogwash and propaganda. And that's how you open it up. She came away and she said, my daughter-in-law got on really well. I even managed to mention Nigel Farage without falling out. And she understood where I was coming from. That's the building blocks of how we change everything. By doing it slowly, by encouraging people. You'll never encourage anyone to open up by telling them they got it wrong. No one wants to think they've got anything wrong. People want to think they've done the right thing. And the only way you can get that across is just the way this lady did, which is to encourage people to be open and honest about their opinions and then not condemn them for having it. It's logical, and you'll get further with that, because we have to be vigilant all the time as they try and inflict new rules and regulations on us, especially with the WHO pandemic treaty. Fortunately, Nigel Farage is fighting that. He has a WhatsApp page about it, and he can influence other politicians. That's the other great thing about Nigel. He's quite popular within the political circle, although that would never be allowed to be seen on TV. And from our point of view, we can get up and get on with our lives, because all we need to do, as you watch stuff like this or find information out from other channels, like Paul Thorpe, or somebody more investigative like, say, what's he called? Is he called Warren? Not Warren Mitchell, that's the amount of bloody... what's it called? Silly Moo. What was that programme called? With Warren Mitchell, and he used to call his wife Silly Moo. What was that called? Death Us Do Part. Death Us Do Part. It's a guy with a good podcast channel. Not Warren Mitchell. Winston Marshall. He's the son of the guy that's a legitimate investor in GB News. He does a good podcast, actually. He has some good guests on. So what you've got to look at from our point of view, moving forward, and our 5-a-day mantra, which is always looking inward at what you've created for yourself, because that's where the good stuff is. The good stuff's what's around you. Going to your friends. And if you live alone, never feel alone, because with social media, there is always somewhere you can go to let off steam or talk to other people. You can find like-minded people in an instant on Facebook and Twitter, and here, of course. I notice when I look through the replies how many comments get 15, 16 thumbs up, or 6 or 7 replies. That's interaction with like-minded people. That's good for the soul, that is, interacting with like-minded people. That's why marches and rallies are popular, because you get together and that energy's there of knowing you're not on your own. I mean, I'm doing this on my own most of the time, which is why I like the people I meet in the WhatsApp groups, because that gives me some that feeling of, God, I'm not doing this just on myself. There's more people like me that want to see the changes I want to see. A lot of people think it's over. It's never, ever over. Never. And it's not a finish line result. And the thing what we've got to get through is how we get in our personal lives through to that finish line situation where things start tweaking back again without being a total basket case financially or mentally. And the way to do that is to support others that you see like yourself. If you see a comment that resonates with what you think, comment on it. Comment on the comment or click a like. Just put agreed. It's surprising what a feel good. Do you know what I do on Facebook? I put something like this on Facebook, or I'll put a post on Facebook that I've written that's probably half humorous. And before I go to bed at night, I go on my phone and I look at my funny posts or my dog videos that I do, and then I see all the likes and the laughing face. That little laughing face on Facebook cracks me up. And the first thing I do is click on that and I have a look at them all. I see who's had a laugh at what I put up that I thought were funny. I love that. I absolutely love that. I love seeing that laughing face. And that makes me feel, I've hit the nail, I've got it, I've nailed it, I've resonated, I've connected. And it's important to feel connected, which has nothing to do with living alone. You can live alone and you know, David said to me the other day, well, you'd be all right, wouldn't you, if anything happened to me? You'd just be wailing your head off on Twitter and all your mates would be feeling sorry. Yeah. Wailing your head off on Twitter. I said, I wouldn't. I'd be on a bloody cruise. I said, is it rude to book a cruise before you book funeral director? Is that rude? And he just, I think he threw a tea towel at me, you know, not heavy. I'm always doing things like that with him. But I have a laugh within my home, you know, with Dave. Dave is actually quite funny. I had to deal with someone the other day, like an official, and she was covered in tattoos, you know, when they have writing on them. He said, oh, it was right hard work, concentrating. I didn't know whether to talk to her or a reader. So he actually helps keep me going sometimes. But he gets more down about things than me. And I say, shut up, Weve. What's wrong with you? You'll have a bottle of milk on the table when it's all finished. You'll still have your bloody cornflakes. Don't be so dramatic. You know, get on with it. And I'm a big believer in a good way to do this is whatever's really naffed you off this week that you've read or seen about the government or news or woke ideology, whatever it is, then think back to your week and ask yourself, how did it actually impact on my life? And if the answer to that is, oh, it didn't, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And the best thing against the woke ideology is a strong family network where you talk to your grandkids or talk to your children about not letting it come between. You see, where I think the education system's gone wrong, we should be teaching kids how to run a bank account, explaining what a mortgage really is and why they need some money for a deposit for a house, instead of blowing all the disposable income on tattoos, weekends away, piss-ups, taxis, new clothes, beauty parlour treatments that are like film stars used to have. Hair extensions, nails. Yeah, you can have it all. You can do all that, but don't expect a house. Don't expect to have any money left for a house if you're having £200 hair extensions, £300 tattoos, spray tans. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have there's not enough disposable income left. Slightly easier for my generation who went out to spend your money on a bar snack once a week, you know, scampi and chips in a pub with a pint of lager. That's all we got. We didn't even have a Chinese in our town. We had to go to Manchester for it. You didn't have takeaway food like you have now. There was a Kentucky Fried Chicken. There was no McDonald's. That came later when I was in my 20s. So we didn't have the choice. We didn't have the temptation. But nevertheless, even without the temptation, I was always focused on getting out of poverty because I was born into poverty. No money, but, you know, a shed full of love, which is important because that helps you as you move along, doesn't it? My mum and dad didn't support me, like, didn't give a stuff whether I did my homework. My mum used to say, how much homework have you got? You've been at school all day. Why haven't they taught you what you need to know? They can come on, get out and play. I'll sort them out if they're on your back about your homework. That was my mother. And she just gave me tips like, don't learn typing, you'll always be somebody else's runaround. Go out in this world for yourself. So I think what you've got to look at is as more people are having the courage to be a little more gentle in their approach rather than a reproach, like you lot got, joined in the rollout, or telling people off or calling them sheep, we need to pack that up. Because they weren't. They weren't. I know they weren't. And we've now got a great position. It's 100 days. It's one of these things that I think it's driven by the press. What difference does it make whether it's 100 days, 110 days? He's been in power. Since he's been in power, he's let his own side down. That's the critical thing here. He's let his own side down. And then we've got No Brainer with Angela Rayner. Have you watched that woman on Twitter and TikTok? She says, she does, welcome to No Brainer with Angela Rayner. Proud northerner, a basic instinct enthusiast. Because of that leg crossing thing in the Commons. I bet Boris was sweating a bit when she did that, don't you? Because you know what he's like for women. He can't keep it in his pants, can he? Goodness me, if he got a girls' band, he'd probably sleep with all of them. Because Boris is very motivated in that department, isn't he? Lazy. He could have done a lot more with his premiership than what he did. He whatever you want to call it, against a wall. Terrible way to let people down after they've waited for change for so long. So all these characters are still in play. Brexit's still as important as it ever was because we haven't really left properly. We haven't, Brino. So what we need to do is remember that as we move forward, each little step that we make, the communists call it the long march because it took them years and decades to get through the institutions, but we can undo it quite easily because there's more people think like us. Just because they're not on social media doesn't mean they're not thinking like us. That's the other bit that people forget, because they're not voicing their opinion. I was talking to someone yesterday and it was an Amazon delivery driver actually. I said, I've not seen you before, I just got talking to him, and he explained about his circumstances. He had a 0 hours contract as usual. And he said he voted for reform. He said, you probably don't think a driver like me would vote for it. I said, I would never pass a judgment on who or why someone became an Amazon driver. All sorts of circumstances, desperation, or losing a job, or a change in circumstances, or just you wanted to be one, it doesn't matter. But the fact is that we got talking and he'd voted reform. So he sees it, whatever he's seeing, doesn't he? And this is the beginning of our strength. We've been apathetic. The one thing we've got to recognise about our side is that no matter how bad it's been with Brexit and the Tories and the media, we've sat back and let it happen. I joined this fight late on, really, 2015. But to be fair, I've never stopped. I've done something every single day. And because I'm just passionate, it's the way I am. And yeah, somebody said that Paul Thorpe's thinking of leaving the country. It runs through my mind, but quite honestly, where do you go? What's the point? Where are you going to go that's better than here? Because you're going to encounter other problems. I've got a friend who went to Florida. Oh, I'm off, I'm going to Florida. Ron DeSantis. We're off to Florida. Anyway, it took several months, obviously, and off they went to Florida. They've got no roof on the bloody house now. So what's the point in running away from Britain to escape the politics, to end up somewhere else where you encounter another problem you didn't anticipate? Things like how you ask for medical attention in a foreign language in somewhere like Germany or Poland. Polish, not so bad, they speak a lot of English. But Austria, they don't. If you go in a hospital, they don't speak much English. So what you've got to look at is, as you roll this boulder away, the way the country's going, you roll it away and you move somewhere else, you will have another set of problems you did not anticipate, like the woman I told you about with the bakers. Cleared off, I think it was Poland, I can't remember. Bought a little bakery that they only open, mornings, and semi-retired husband was a baker, and then they get a gang coming to the village, wanting, I think it was something like 20% of the takings to keep them safe. Why do you need to keep safe in the village at back of beyond where nobody's got any burglar alarms? So, they're getting stuffed by gang criminals, the people in Florida, the roof's off the house. You can't, and that's one of the reasons I think, hang on, the stuff that gets me naffed off with this country isn't really happening in my household too greatly. I can afford my bills, much as it grieves me if you saw my energy bills in winter, you'd die, because we live in a row of houses, 2 houses knocked into one. My choice, I pay for it. I didn't ask for any money off anybody. Certainly didn't get left any. Got left a bloody gas bill off my dad. So we have to remember that we really need more than ever to get the best out of each day. And part of it should be trying to inform people. You see, the other thing, don't talk about the Weve too much because they won't get it. Because essentially the Weve is just a glorified chamber of trade. It's just where all the really, really super rich meet. You know, like in your local town, you'll have a chamber of trade and they all meet to discuss how to do things in the area better. And no doubt, rub shoulders with people who can do them some good. That's all it is. That's all the Weve is. They're not actually issuing any. It's the corporations that are driving this. The huge corporations who benefit from a slave class of labour where they don't want any competition from small and medium-sized businesses. So don't go on too much about the Weve contract. People won't be able to get that. Discuss stuff they can understand and then let it go. Discuss energy prices shouldn't be this high. Why are we paying as much as Norway when we haven't got the infrastructure to support it? Why are they paying money for carbon capture when we can't keep the drains clear? Give them stuff they can understand why things are going wrong and how Reform, for instance, as a party, Nigel Farage and people that think like him, even if they're independents, can help to change this from within. That's all you need to do. It doesn't have to be heavy-handed. It doesn't have to get you down and frustrated. And if there are those that are hardcore, it's either the delivery mechanism of the information, how you're putting it across to them, as I say, no insults, no sheep, or you're never going to get them back. Leave them to it. Wish them up, wish them well, move on to your next victim.